I can't seem to get happy. I might as well go to bed for 100 years. Hello, misery. I'm home.
SpongeBob is my favorite TV show of all time, but even I can admit some episodes just really do not sit right. You know, SpongeBob is usually this bright, goofy, fun show, but every now and then it takes a weirdly odd turn. And Are You Happy Now is one of those episodes that are very unsettling. This episode tried to tackle one of the worst feelings that a human can experience: depression. But the way that it does it, it kind of left a lot of people feeling uncomfortable. While some found it to be disturbing, a lot of people questioned why this episode even existed in the first place. So today we'll be breaking down the episode, dissecting it, and give my thoughts on what really went wrong. What was this episode trying to say? Did it handle depression in a meaningful way, or did it just completely miss the mark? But before we get started, hi, my name is Kenya Deanna, and I love diving into our favorite cartoons, diving into the deeper meanings behind them, and covering controversial episodes much like this one. And let me tell you, SpongeBob have some weird episodes and some weird moments, but this episode in particular is different and it stands out the most. And also, before we move on, I just want to give out a content warning. This video includes discussions about mental health, particularly depression, so please take care of yourself while watching and feel free to skip this video if it feels uncomfortable for you. So with that being said, let's get started. The episode kicks off like most SpongeBob SquarePants episodes do, with SpongeBob and Squidward working their usual shifts at the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob, in his typical overly excited fashion, is flipping through the schedule book, which he calls his happy book, where all of his happiest memories are stored.
What's so... Why, it's my happy book. The Krusty Krab is where all of my happiest memories occurred.
Because, of course, he loves the Krusty Krab, although the Krusty Krab does not like him. Squidward, on the other hand, is obviously angered and annoyed by this, so what does he do? He destroys that one book. But little does Squidward know, SpongeBob has a whole cabinet of happy books. And SpongeBob definitely has something wrong with him, because who in their right mind gets that excited about their fast food job? I know I sure don't. Although I am grateful to have a job because it is hard nowadays, but y'all get what I'm saying. Anyways, this prompts SpongeBob to ask Squidward the million-dollar question. What's your happiest memory?
So, what's your happiest memory, Squidward?
Squidward, in classic Squidward fashion, admits he does not have one, and it actually makes him really sad, and actually, he starts crying.
Else take my order?
Shocked by this, SpongeBob cannot believe it and becomes so determined to change that, with his mind set on helping Squidward to create his happiest memory.
Don't worry, Squidward. I'll help you make a happiest memory.
Really?
And they both set sail on a journey to make that happen. He starts off by taking Squidward to a concert, something Squidward actually enjoys. But that ends in a disaster whenever a violinist's bow hits Squidward in the eye. So much for that, right? SpongeBob does not give up though. Next, he takes Squidward to an art museum. We all know how much Squidward loves art, especially his own art. For a moment, it looks like Squidward might actually be feeling proud and happy of one of his pieces because it's in the art museum. But not until the great Fiasco, an art critic, burns it to a crisp.
Gosh, Fiasco himself is talking about my art.
Squid! Word! Go toward the light of my flamethrower!
Not exactly the happiest memory that they're both looking for. And let me just tell you, if that happened to me, me and this critic would be fighting, because that is absolutely just rude. Still though, SpongeBob does not give up. This time he takes Squidward on a hot air balloon ride, but of course, surprise surprise, Squidward's terrified of heights. They end up crash landing onto a mountain where they run into a climber who spent 20 years trying to reach the peak. The climber was about to be the first person, fish, ever to summit this mountain, but no, SpongeBob accidentally gets there first. In a fit of rage, the climber gives SpongeBob the flag to plant at the summit, but predictably, the flag ends up being planted straight into Squidward's foot. So yeah, not exactly a happy memory, again, that SpongeBob and Squidward were looking for. At this point though, Squidward's had enough. He gets sick and tired of SpongeBob attempting to help create his happiest memory. And even if he had a happiest memory, he definitely does not want SpongeBob to be there.
I'll never have a happiest memory, and if I do, it definitely won't involve you.
But regardless, feeling defeated, he locks himself away for 2 weeks, completely shutting down. Now this is the meat and potatoes of the episode where Squidward is actually faced with his depression. SpongeBob, still not ready to give up, tries to cheer him up with some of the chaotic SpongeBob SquarePants antics outside Squidward's house. But Squidward refuses to budge. And inside of Squidward's house, it's just really messy, dark, and just a reflection of how he's feeling. Then here comes the most shocking part of this episode. This is a scene that has been talked about forever. And this is really one of the darkest moments in SpongeBob SquarePants history. Squidward is holding a rope, but the way that it's framed and the way that he's holding the rope, it all suggests that he's about to do something drastic. You know, I can't really say the word on YouTube, but it's the kind of stereotypical thing that people do whenever they no longer want to be on Earth anymore. But just as the tension reaches its peak, and the ultimate reveal is that he's just hanging up a bird cage. And to make it even more absurd, the bird immediately throws up in his face. It's a moment that's both unexpectedly dark and absolutely ridiculous, especially for a kid's show. But after that, SpongeBob finally was able to get through to Squidward by sending Squidward to what seems to be an empty package. But little does Squidward know, SpongeBob is inside the box, essentially kidnapping him and shipping him straight back to the Krusty Krab. When Squidward arrives, he's met with a surprise party. But it's not just any party. The entire room is filled with eerie, lifeless paper mache versions of SpongeBob. It's creepy and it's really unsettling. And Squidward, he completely loses it.
You don't seem to understand. I don't want a happiest memory!
He tears through the SpongeBob dummies in a full-blown meltdown, ripping and shredding them apart. But then, mid-destruction, something clicks. This moment right here, his pure, unfiltered rage, this is his happiest memory.
Isn't it my happiest memory?
He's so handsome.
And really, that's how the episode ends. It's a weird, wild, and chaotic episode, but by the end of it, Squidward's happiest memory comes from the complete destruction of SpongeBob, which is very dark. It's an unexpected, but I guess fitting conclusion to the episode. Now that we've gone through the episode, it's kind of hard to ignore how Are You Happy Now was received by both fans and critics. But why did this episode stir up such a reaction? Was it too dark, or were people just not ready for a show like SpongeBob to portray depression in the way that it did? Now here's the thing though, Are You Happy Now did not receive a warm welcome from fans or critics. Fans and critics both alike thought the episode was dark and offensive and figured that it did not handle depression in the right way. And oddly enough, the episode was pulled for 5 years up until it found its way back into circulation. And honestly, I really found that really interesting because Midlife Crustacean was banned for being too offensive. So why did Are You Happy Now get a second chance? Is it because it didn't receive enough backlash to warrant cancellation? I don't know, but either way, it is kind of weird when you think about it, right? But here is where things get even creepier. A big reason why this episode also stirred up so much controversy is because of its eerie resemblance to the SpongeBob creepypasta. And if you're a longtime SpongeBob fan like I am, then you know what creepypasta I'm talking about. And if you guessed it right, it is the Squidward side creepypasta, aka the Red Mist. Some fans speculated that Are You Happy Now was directly inspired by the infamous internet horror story. And honestly, I think I understand why. I recently watched and read the creepypasta, and let me just tell you, it is terrifying. Like, disturbingly demented. When it first came out, I just straight up refused to watch it because, one, I did not want to get creeped out and scared because I'm just a baby like that. And two, I really did not want it to distort the perception I have of SpongeBob because SpongeBob is this friendly, happy cartoon, so I just didn't want it to ruin the image I had in my head of it. But after finally watching it, I just want to say I want my eyeballs and I want my jaw back, because when I was reading it, my jaw dropped on the floor. Now, to be fair, there is no official confirmation that Are You Happy Now was based off of the creepypasta. But funnily enough though, SpongeBob did eventually feature the creepypasta in a SpongeBob episode titled SpongeBob in Random Land.
This place is a nightmare! No one's ever returned!
But I must say that the SpongeBob lore is a rabbit hole, and it gets weirder and weirder. Now, looking at how Are You Happy Now was received by other media platforms, IMDb rated it a 6.4 out of 10 with plenty of scathing reviews, but one reviewer really summed up their thoughts like this. Are You Happy Now? 3 out of 10. The episode is pretty bad. The writers forgot quite a few moments where Squidward was actually happy. It abuses his jokes and references to side, which is not funny. Aside from that, the episode is boring and the ending is downright disturbing. For context, the same reviewer gave Planet of the Jellyfish, the episode that aired alongside it, a 9 out of 10, calling it one of the best of the season. So yeah, I guess that says a lot. Even Watch Mojo ranked Are You Happy Now as one of the top 10 times SpongeBob SquarePants went too far. And of course, I did have to check Reddit. Yes, I know. Reddit. And let's just say fans, they were not holding back. One user even stated Are You Happy Now is literally just super jokes. I think that's pretty dark for a kid's show. But controversy aside though, what was it about the portrayal of depression that rubbed people the wrong way? I mean, what really went wrong with the episode? Here's where things can get a little bit in the tricky territory. The episode attempts to talk about a sensitive topic of mental health and depression, but it feels oddly out of place for a show like SpongeBob SquarePants, which was meant for kids. While the series has never shied away from darker humor, this time it just felt like they really missed the mark, because mental health and depression are delicate topics and it's something real that people go through. Now, do not get me wrong, there are parts in the episode that are funny and that I do like and can appreciate. But the way that it handles depression, it just came off so shallow and it just came off so misguided. For one, the depiction of depression in the episode leans into outdated stereotypes of depression. It represents Squidward as completely isolated, neglecting his space, and visibly miserable for weeks. Now, while that can be a reality for some people, depression isn't just one note. It's just not one character. It has nuance. Depression isn't just always so obvious. In reality, many people with depression still continue on with their daily routines. And it's not even really because they want to. It's better to pretend to be okay than to deal with the, I'll say, well-meaning but exhausting questions and advice. Like, what's wrong, or oh, things will get better, or my personal favorite, there are other people out there who are going through much worse than you. Yeah, that one definitely made me feel better, right? Depression is just way more complex and way more nuanced than what they portrayed it in SpongeBob. The episode just completely turned depression into a one-note character or one-note meaning. And I feel like I'm saying this because I can speak from experience. I recently went through a tough spell of depression, and trust me, it was not easy at all. And watching Are You Happy Now just only made it harder to process. And the way that it just portrayed depression was just so blunt and stereotypical, and it just really did not sit right well with me at all. Depression isn't just as simple as the show makes it out to be. The idea that Squidward's stuck at home for weeks just swallowing in misery feels completely off. That's just not how depression always works. For me, it wasn't just about shutting myself out from the world. It was about keeping everything together as well. I still had to pay bills, and I still had to make sure my husband was okay and making sure my kitty cats were okay, while feeling like I was also losing myself. Speaking of kitty cats, I have one right here. Bella. Depression messes with how you feel and how you function and how you think. It's not just about isolating yourself and everything fall apart. I mean, sometimes you just have to push through it. Doing small tasks like cleaning up my house or journaling made me feel like I had some sense of control, even when I felt emotionally drained. I even tried to go outside and get some sunlight or exercise. But this is where the episode just completely misses the mark. It could have shown how even in the depths of depression, people are still trying to find control. Instead, it relied on stereotypes that don't reflect the reality of living with mental health struggles. And when you think about it, people don't just have the luxury to just sit at home and wallow in their misery. People still have things to do. They have kids and families, they still gotta pay bills, and do you think losing more money is gonna make them feel even better? No, it just makes them feel worse. Responsibilities just don't stop because of our depression and how we're feeling. The question is, where are these types of people represented in media? I feel like it's not much there, and this SpongeBob episode just does not help. Now, I'm not expecting for a show like SpongeBob SquarePants to be philosophical and be an expert on mental health or whatever, but I just feel like whenever you talk about depression, I think it should be tackled with a little bit more sensitivity and care. But I also do think it's important to recognize that kids watch these shows, and shows like these have an influence on kids to understand themselves and the world. Kids are still learning how to manage their emotions, and a show like SpongeBob can shape how they perceive things like sadness and depression if it approached mental health with a little bit more nuance, even with the context of its wild and crazy humor. I really feel like the show could teach kids the value of empathy and self-kindness, and those kind of lessons really do stick with kids as they get older, because we know that kids are a sponge. They just soak up everything in the environment around them. And I know this for firsthand because I have some bad behind cousins, but their experiences are shaped based off of what they see and what they experience in their environment around them. And they pick up those kind of patterns, especially from their parents. And those kinds of influences really do stick with them and stay with them. But the thing is, although SpongeBob is a show that can shape people's perceptions, the show's handling like serious topic like mental health really lacked a lot of subtlety that I feel like it really needed. Take example some of the lines from the episode, like,
"Hello, misery. I'm home. I might as well go to bed for 100 years or so. Wake me when I'm dead. I can't seem to get happy. Maybe this will help."
These just felt so super heavy-handed. And sure, it is a kid's show, I know that, and we're not expecting great psychological analysis. But if you're going to address something like depression, especially within a kid's show, I feel like you should talk about it in more of a nuanced type of way. And without that, it just comes off like awkward and dark humor and less meaningful. Editing, can you hear? Okay, so I was editing this video and I realized I forgot to mention one of the most important parts about this episode is that they use suicide as a joke. Like, there are moments within this episode that it looks like Squidward was about to self-harm, but it's just played off for laughs, like the part when he was holding the rope. I mean, I get that SpongeBob has always had dark humor within its show, but I just felt like this was a little bit too much, especially with it being a kid show. It's one thing to have an edgy joke, but to really make light of super like that, I don't know. It kind of feels a bit off for me. But yeah, that's not it. Just had to add that in there real quick. All right, back to the video. With that being said, that brings me to how they portrayed Squidward's depression in the episode. This episode suggested that he doesn't want happiness or a happy memory. His happiest memory is tearing up paper maches of SpongeBob, which shifts the tone to something darker. Are they suggesting Squidward would want SpongeBob dead? Or is it commenting on how some people with depression feel disconnected from happiness, even when others try to help? It's really hard to say because Squidward is already a character who is just miserable, which is kind of hard to dive into the depths of his emotions. On the flip side though, it really brings me to something about how they portrayed SpongeBob trying to help Squidward. Even though Squidward clearly doesn't want his help, SpongeBob keeps pushing him into these forced overly cheerful situations and keeps trying to push him out of the house. He's that kind of friend who kind of just don't get it. It's not about trying to push someone out of their funk with distractions. What I think people really need with depression is space, time, and someone that they can talk to who doesn't really judge them all the time. And this is something that happens in real life too. And I get it because people are trying to help us. They try to shower us with positivity and try to help us fix our issues, but I just feel like it doesn't always work. But sometimes I really do feel like it can make us so much worse. But the episode could have just done a better job showing how complicated it can be to support a friend when they're going through something like depression. And no, I'm not saying that people with depression are a helpless group of people, because I just feel like that they're not. But sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, we just really need our space. And with that being said, that leads me to my next point. I think that there are other shows out there who portrays depression and mental health in a much better way and more thoughtfully. And that show, for example, is Hey Arnold. Take the episode Helga on the Couch, for example. It really tackles Helga's mental health struggles with the sensitivity and depth that it needed, blending humor with real emotional complexity. The episode takes the time to actually explore what it feels like to be in Helga's head, dealing with neglect from her parents and even her sister, and her conflicting feelings about Arnold. SpongeBob could have really learned a thing or two from Hey Arnold and how to handle such a sensitive topic like depression, meanwhile keeping its humor intact. SpongeBob is known for its wild, zany humor, but sometimes it just doesn't quite manage to mix in those heavier topics as well. Humor can definitely help address tough issues, but SpongeBob just kind of misses the balance with that. Its wacky, over-the-top style just doesn't always work when it comes to something as serious as depression. And it can take away from the sensitivity that the topic really needed. At the end of the day, I really do feel like that the show did have good intentions with trying to talk about the topic of depression, but I just feel like it really missed the mark on how it talked about it. Squidward, who could have really been a great representation of depression, was kind of mishandled, and it ended up feeling more like a joke than a real look at mental health. Mental health and depression is something that everyone experiences differently, and shows, especially with younger audiences, should tackle depression and mental health more carefully and more nuanced. Humor can be such a great way to address those tough topics, but there really is a fine line between being lighthearted and being insensitive. In this case, SpongeBob didn't quite get the balance right at all, which is a bummer because it really could have been a great and perfect opportunity to help people who understand and empathize more. So I guess the takeaway from this really is that we just need to treat depression and mental health with a little bit more care and nuance, especially when we talk about it in media. But those are just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Maybe I'm off the mark here. Maybe it's not even really that much serious because it is a SpongeBob episode after all. And maybe some people think that they did handle depression well in the episode, and I definitely can respect those opinions, but I just could not help myself. I just really had to talk about this episode because of what I was going through, and I'm not gonna even lie about it. I just felt like that the episode was making a mockery of how I was feeling. And I know that kind of sounds sensitive and I promise I'm really not all that sensitive. Like, I can handle a bunch of topics and a bunch of stuff, but I don't know, it's just something about mental health and depression that gets me every time. I mean, I think we all have something that we feel sensitive about, and mental health and depression is just something that I just feel sensitive about. I don't know. And I know this video was kind of dark talking about the topics of mental health and depression, but hopefully in our next video it won't be as dark. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe, and if you like this video, please like this video as it will help me out a ton in the algorithm. I don't know why, but I just feel like my videos are not really getting pushed that well, so just please like this video and please stay safe out there, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, you guys!